Hello and welcome to the Have You Seen podcast brought to you by Dave on Film. I'm Dave Woolin, and today I'm going to be going through some of the latest Oscars news, as well as going through the films that I've seen this week, giving you some recommendation on some really big films that are hitting the big screen. And as well, we'll be going through the current UK top 10 in the UK box office. I'd like to thank you all for downloading and listening to this podcast first and foremost. If you've not done so already, please give me a subscribe and share and spread the word. You can comment wherever you're listening to this, or you can email me on daveonfilmreviews@gmail.com, or drop me a message on any of my socials, which are all in the description of this episode. I'll get your thoughts on, see what you've been watching, see what you've been reviewing. But first up, let's take a look at what went on at the Oscars. So last week, the Oscars were held in Hollywood, as usual, at the Dolby Theatre in Hollywood. Lovely theatre. I've been outside the theatre when I've been on a trip to Hollywood before. It's quite a small theatre, from the outside anyway. But it's traditionally where the Oscars are hosted. On the night, I thought it was a pretty decent event. I think Conan O'Brien was a fairly decent host. Some of the jokes really didn't land, unfortunately. But I always find that with the Oscars. I think it's a tough crowd to work. And I think sometimes stuff doesn't work. But some of the good things that have come out of it have been things like the creating the meme with Leonardo DiCaprio. I think that worked really well. But yeah, I thought it was a good event. And some of the winners, I was not surprised by most of the winners on the night. There was one or two where I was kind of surprised. So I'm just going to go through some of the actual awards. First up, we'll go right down to Best Documentary Short. Now, I've only seen one of the short documentary films, and it was the one that I've seen that's won, called All the Empty Rooms, which is a really powerful documentary about families of kids who've been killed in school shootings in America, and kind of how they've preserved the bedroom for kind of nostalgia purposes and reminiscing. And this documentary filmmaker goes around and just looks at those bedrooms and tries to get a feel of the child who died. And it's really poignant. It's got a serious message that it's trying to put across, and it is an interesting short, which I was quite pleased it won. When I saw that it was up, it was like, I'd like that one to win. But as we start going through some of the smaller categories, I have to admit I've not seen a lot of the shorts, so I can't really comment on them. Best costume design winner was Kate Hawley for Frankenstein. Great choice. Frankenstein did well in the kind of technical areas, as we'll see. So it also won Best Makeup and Hairstyling, which again, it deserved. So that's Frankenstein. That's on Netflix, the Guillermo del Toro film, starring Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein's monster. And it deserves Best Costume Design and Makeup and Hairstyling. And it also won the Oscar for Best Production Design, which again, it really, really deserved. And I'm not going to begrudge it that whatsoever. I thought it was a solid winner of that. Then we come to things like Best Visual Effects. Avatar won it. Avatar were always going to win an award like that. The whole film is visual effects, so it's always going to win a film like that. Best Sound. I was actually really pleased with this, even though I've not seen it yet. But I've seen clips, and it was won by F1. Now, I am actually going to be watching F1 this week. So Thomas Pitts, who's a listener to the podcast, he's challenged me. He's sent me a big email and basically said, have you seen F1? And he's a massive F1 enthusiast. So I am going to watch F1 this week. And on the next episode, I'll be talking all about F1 and kind of what what's going on in terms of how much I liked it, if I liked it as much as him, and we'll kind of take that from there. And then we get onto some of the bigger awards. Well, best original song went to Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters. K-pop Demon Hunters were massive this last year, so I'm not surprised it picked that up. And it also picked up best animated feature. But then when we get to the big awards, this is when we start talking about Sinners and One Battle After Another that kind of cleaned up everything. So One Battle After Another took best casting. That could have gone to anyone because all the films this year were pretty solid in terms of having decent casts. Film editing went to One Battle After Another. Again, I expected it was going to be that on editing. I think it's a film that's put together well, even though I'm not a massive fan. One Battle After Another also took Best Adapted Screenplay. Again, fair enough on that one. And it took Best Director. Paul Thomas Anderson won it for Best Director for One Battle After Another. Sean Penn took the Best Supporting Actor for One Battle After Another. Again, he is fantastic in that, so a really solid win. And the big one it took home was Best Picture. So One Battle After Another was 2026's Best Picture, so it's put itself in a really good historical list there with some big films and some rubbish films as well that have been listed as Best Picture over the years. Sinners did well as well, so Sinners did pick up for the Oscars for Best Cinematography, which if you've seen it, you'll understand. It got Best Original Score, which it had to win. The score in Sinners is basically the entire film. Ryan Coogler took the award for Best Original Screenplay. Again, well deserved. So obviously that got Original Screenplay, and One Battle After Another got Adapted Screenplay because One Battle After Another is based on a book, whereas Sinners was an original piece of work. Best International Feature went to Sentimental Value. Probably the best of the ones that I have seen internationally. And then Sinners also took home Best Actor. So Michael B. Jordan was named Best Actor. Now, he plays two roles in Sinners. So obviously he's taken home the award as an overall thing for that film. Best Supporting Actress was the only award that actually surprised me all night, in fairness. It went to Amy Madigan for Weapons, and she plays kind of the old woman in Weapons. I was really surprised with that because I thought it would have gone to either one of the girls from Sentimental Value, or I thought Wunmi Masaku were going to take it for Sinners, and I'm a bit gutted that she didn't, but Amy Madigan got it. And the only other big award really, was Jessie Buckley for Hamnet, which was the most nailed-on award all night. She looked surprised when she won it. There were no surprise there. She was always going to win that award. Never, it was never in doubt. So, yeah. So that's the Oscars 2026, and now obviously everything starts again, and we start looking forward to Oscars 2027. Are any of the films that are coming out currently going to be potentially pushing for Oscars? Who knows? And I'm going to talk about a couple of brand new films next. So first up is Project Hail Mary, which I went to see on a special preview screening last weekend. I took my daughter with me because I thought it was a big experience for her to go to an IMAX screening of a film. And this is the big new sci-fi film. So it's adapted from the book of the same name by Andy Weir, who also wrote The Martian, which was turned into a Matt Damon film. So it's a brand new film starring Ryan Gosling that's hit the big screen, and it really does demand the biggest screen to enjoy it to the full. Told through the means of two intertwining storylines, Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, awakes to find himself in a spaceship heading to a distant star. His two companions are dead, and the disorientation of the induced coma that he's been in means that he doesn't initially know where he is or why he's there. And then we start to see flashbacks to an earlier time when Grace was recruited from his science teacher job by the government to help head up a research division at a top secret facility. And we find out that the sun is slowly dying, due to a small organism called astrophage, which is found to be travelling between the Sun and Venus on something called the Petrova line. And it's effectively eating up all the Sun's energy, and it's going to cause it to die out within a few years and can effectively plunge humanity into extinction. And then back on the ship, Ryland figures this out, and he figures out that his mission is to travel to the only star which isn't dying and figure out why it might be that this one star is not dying, in the hope that he can send back some findings back to Earth and save the human race. Unfortunately, it is a one-way mission. There's no chance of him returning, and he is kind of humanity's only hope. And then he meets Rocky and realizes that we might not be alone in the universe, and there might just be others out there who are struggling the same as humanity. Can they work together and save both their races? So when I saw the first trailer for Project Hail Mary, I realised straight away it was based on a book, and I made a snap decision to buy and read the book before the film came out, and it really quickly established itself as one of the best things I have ever read. It's really well written. There's loads of science, techie jargon in there, but it's written in a way that really feels accessible and understandable, something that translates well onto the film as well. So even though they're talking very science, techie stuff, you get what's going on. So I never felt dumb reading it, and you won't feel dumb watching the film, which is quite a big achievement for a story that is so thick in technical language and knowledge of the sciences. And the book made me cry on so many occasions, and I was just hoping that the film adaptation was going to be a good one. Thankfully, it is absolutely incredible. This could be one of my favourite films of all time, and I don't say that lightly, but yeah, I have never felt the way I felt watching this film in the cinema. Unbelievable. So the film tells the story in the same way the book does. It kind of glances over all that technical stuff, and it gets to nitty gritty as soon as it's able to, and it really makes a film flow. So obviously they realise that they have to they can use the astrophage to power the ship, but they need to multiply it on a massive scale. And in the film, it just happens, and they just happen to make enough that they can power the ship. But in the book, there's a long story about how they're gonna kind of effectively pave over the Sahara Desert to build something big enough. We don't need to know all that. We don't need that level of detail. So it skips these slow sections really well. And what it does is it leaves us with a really well-paced, energetic film, which hits all the right notes for me. Cinematically, it is beautiful. The stunning spacescapes and effects when some of the later scenes happen, they are so visually gorgeous. It's unbelievable. And I won't say what's happening in those later scenes because it'll spoil some things. And the spaceship feels really claustrophobic, but there's only a one-man crew in there now, and it just works, and it feels like you're in that ship with Ryan Gosling, who really inhabits the character of Grace so well. He's got really good comedic timing that's on point when it needs to be. And this film really does have a lot of very funny, laugh-out-loud moments. And Ryan Gosling is really good at being emotionally charged. And that really comes into play in some of the later scenes too, especially when he's trying to convey the struggles that he's facing, whilst kind of keeping effectively the whole of humanity and the weight of humanity on his shoulders. And then we come to Rocky. So all the trailers spoil the fact that he meets an alien, and so I feel like I'm okay talking about it because all the trailers and everything for this film shows Rocky and shows him talking to Rocky, so I'm not spoiling anything. So he meets a little alien. So this little alien basically parks his ship up next to Grace's, and he starts to make contact. Now, Rocky looks amazing. He looks exactly like he looks in the book. And what the directors, Christopher Miller and Phil Lord, do is they've made him really likeable from the very beginning. So he starts copying Grace's movements when he first meets him. And it's a little bit something in the in the Steven Spielberg films where you've got a father-son relationship and the son is kind of mimicking the father's actions. It's a little bit like that, and it instantly makes us and Grace in the film aware that Rocky's no threat to him, and he just wants to save his planet as well. And then once the two of them create a means of communication and Rocky's given an actual voice, the comedy really ramps up. And some of the back and forth between the two of them is really, really funny. Now, my major concerns about any adaptation from a really loved book is that they're going to change loads of things, alter the endings, miss the entire reasons for things to be happening. But this film's clearly been made by someone who has a real love for the source material and wanted to transfer it to the big screen in the best way and the most faithful way imaginable. And that's exactly what they've done. I went into it expecting to shed a few tears at those moments that I did when I was reading the book. But what I didn't expect was to become completely overcome with joy throughout the film. It's been such a long time since I was so emotionally invested in a story on big screen. There was about 6 occasions where I was literally moved to tears. Sometimes, like, I couldn't even control it. There were happy tears in there. There were joyous tears. There were tears of relief. There were tears of pain. And there were actually like tears of, and this is going to sound really cheesy, but there were real tears of hope that cinema's going to live on forever and be part of our lives for years to come. It's a really amazing piece of cinema, and it's a film that absolutely has to be seen on the biggest of screens. I will probably go see this again at the cinema. And you need to go to your cinema and watch this absolute delight of a film. So that's Project Hail Mary, and that is out now. Go and see it. It's amazing. So I'm going to have a look now at the current top 10 in the UK. So this is as of last weekend. I'm just going to fly through some of these because there's a few of them that I've not actually seen, and I probably won't get to see, unfortunately. But if you have, write in and let me know what you've seen, and I'll read your reviews out. So at number 10 is The Secret Agent, which was up for an Oscar nomination. It didn't win anything, but I have to admit, I've tried watching it about 4 times, and I tend to put it on a little bit later in the evening, and unfortunately, I keep falling asleep. And that's through no fault of the film. I think it's just because I'm watching it late and it's subtitled and it's quite a slow burn. And I'm not entirely sure I'm going to get through the rest of it, unfortunately. But that's The Secret Agent, and that's number 10 currently in the charts. Number 9 is The Bride, which is the new one with Jessie Buckley. So Jessie Buckley's just won the Oscar, and she's in The Bride now. That's at number 9 in the charts. It's all about the Bride of Frankenstein. It looks wild. It's been out a couple of weeks. I've still not had a chance to see it, unfortunately. But Bride is at number 9. At number 8 is Epic, which stands for Elvis Presley in Concert. So this was a new film where they'd taken all the footage that they found of Elvis Presley performing live, and they'd edited it all together. So Baz Luhrmann had edited it all together into effectively a big concert, and you can go watch it. It's got loads of behind the scenes stuff, and that will be a good watch. I do want to see if I can see this in the cinema, because I think it's probably one that needs to be seen on the big screen. Number 7 is Goat, which is the animated film from Sony Pictures, all about a goat that wants to play rawball, does basketball. I have spoke about Goat on a previous episode, so if you want to go back and listen to that, you can do. It's a good film. It's a great film for kids, and you'll have a lot of fun watching it. Number 6 is Scream 7. So this has been in the charts 3 weeks now. It really missed the mark for me, unfortunately. I didn't particularly like it. I love the Scream franchise, and it was easily the weakest in the franchise for me. Again, I've spoke about this on another episode. I just found the final reveal to be painful and a bit like, what? Why is it them? What? I don't get it. And then they say why, and it's a bit like, I'm not really bothered. And that was the problem with Scream 7. I wasn't really bothered, and I should have been bothered, because they brought Neve Campbell back, and I should have been bothered. and I wasn't. And that's Scream 7 at number 6. At number 5 is Wuthering Heights, which is still hanging in there. It's still in the top 5. It's been in the top 5 for 5 weeks now. Absolutely amazing film. So if you've not seen Wuthering Heights yet, go get to see it before it starts coming out of the cinema, because some big films coming out soon. So these films are going to start getting less and less screenings. It's really, really, oh, I loved it. And we had a previous episode where you can go back to, and there's a lot of correspondence about Wuthering Heights. It'd be good for you to go back and listen to that if you've not already. There's a lot of people with a lot of things to say, and it's good to hear people's opinions on it. I loved it, and I hope you do too. Number 4 is Mother's Pride, which is it looks like a very English film. It's Mark Addy and a load of other English actors that look like they're effectively trying to save a pub from going under. All to do with a brewery and a pub. I've only seen some trailers for it. It looks kind of fun, but it also looks like one that you could probably give a miss at the cinema and enjoy at home. And I don't think it'd lose anything. So that's currently at number 4. At number 3 is How to Make a Killing. This is it's been in the charts 2 weeks now, and this is the Glenn Powell film where he's basically set to inherit a lot of money as long as he can kill off the 7 people who stand in front of him in the family, who are all horrible people. So he goes about offing them all to see if he can inherit the money. Again, unfortunately, not seen it, but if you have, let me know. Number 2 is Reminders of Him. I literally know nothing about this. I heard it being reviewed on another podcast. Yes, there are other movie podcasts out there. And it sounds like it's a very sentimental film. It's an adaptation of a book, it's not a Nicholas Sparks book, but it's that kind of... So I think if you like Nicholas Sparks type books, you're probably going to like Reminders of Him. I mean, I've not seen it. I've not even seen a trailer for it. Have you seen Reminders of Him? If you have, let me know what you think, and I will see if I can get to see it this week. And if not, it'll be good to hear what you thought of it. And at number 1 in the UK box office this week, it's been out 2 weeks now, and it's Hoppers. So this is the new Disney animated film all about a scientist who realises that they can put human brains into animals or something like that. The trailer's been around for ages, and I've been catching the trailer, and it does look quite funny. I've just not had a chance to see it. I will probably take my little one to see it. I might take this weekend and see if we can get it watched, and see where it is in the charts next week. I expect it's not going to be number 1 next week, because I expect Project Hail Mary is going to smash everything in the charts next week, but we will see. So that is the UK box office top 10. That's The Secret Agent at 10, The Bride at number 9, Epic Elvis Presley in Concert at number 8, Goat at 7, Scream 7 at 6, Wuthering Heights at 5, Mother's Pride at 4, How to Make a Killing at 3, Reminders of Him at 2, and Hoppers at number 1. So next up is Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Now, I went to a Silver Screaming, which is the name of the thing that Cineworld cinemas do, where they put a horror film on, and you don't know what it's going to be. You sit down and you wait, and all you know is it's going to be a horror film. So I sat down, waited for it to come on, and it came up and said it was Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. I love the first. Well, I like the first one. The first one's a decent film. A couple of people walked out as soon as they saw what it was, because obviously, potentially they'd not seen the first one, so they didn't want to watch the second one. But yeah, so Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. So 2019's Ready or Not introduced us to the character of Grace, who was played by Samara Weaving. And she was a bride who married into a wealthy family before being forced to play a game of hide and seek with her new in-laws, in which they would all try and kill her before dawn as a sacrifice to the devil to avoid them all being killed by Satan himself. So it was something that they all believed, that they'd effectively, if they didn't kill her by dawn, Satan would kill them all. And spoiler alert, Grace kicks into survival mode, as you would expect in this kind of film. She slaughters everybody whilst wearing a wedding dress and ultimately wins the game, and causes the rest of the family to explode and die when Satan turns up and kills everybody. So the first film really stuck to its convictions in a really surprising way. And I know some people, so I know my sister, didn't like the ending, and I think it's because it got a little bit silly. But I were fine with it, and there were utter carnage at final scenes. It were insane, and it were gory as hell. So now, 5 years later, comes 6 years later, comes Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, which picks up straight after the events of the first film. So Grace collapses and she's taken to hospital where her only family contact, her sister Faith, played by Catherine Newton, comes to visit. Now, the two sisters are estranged, with Faith suffering from real severe abandonment issues after she was abandoned by her elder sister when she was 15, when her elder sister went and started a new life in New York. And whilst the sisters are arguing about the past traumas, we see Chester Danforth, who's played by top director, actually, David Cronenberg, and he sits in the high chair, seemingly in control of world events. The first thing we see him do is watching footage of a war on the news, and he phones in a ceasefire, which takes place immediately. So we know that he's got some real power. Then he learns that the bride from the first film has survived, something that hasn't happened for a lot of years. And they actually mention in the film the last time it happened, and it screams of prequel in the making to show us what happened back then. So a load of new events are set in motion, which unfortunately mean that Chester has to die, and he gets smothered by his son Titus, played by Sean Hatose, and daughter Ursula, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar. So they kill him, and then all the families come together. So there's 4 families, and a new game is going to be played by the heads of these 4 families. Grace and Faith are kidnapped, and they're sat in front of them all, and they're told the new rules to the new game, which is effectively another game of hide and seek. But this time, there are massive stakes, because whoever kills Grace will earn the top seat and effectively control the world. But should Grace win again, she gets all the power. So she's trapped within a compound. Grace and Faith are handcuffed together and they're set loose, and they have to effectively overcome everyone trying to kill them, as well as dealing with their own grievances with each other in order to survive. So cue an absolute bloodbath, tons of deaths, exploding bodies, and one really fun scene that's set to Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart. And it's at this point where I don't know what's going on, but when Samara Weaving was in the film Bloodline, which I love. If you've not seen Bloodline, see it. There's a fight scene in that set to Celine Dion's It's All Coming Back to Me Now, and both Celine Dion's It's All Coming Back to Me Now and Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart were written by Jim Steinman, who did all Meatloaf songs. And I'm starting to think that Samara Weaving's got some kind of like Jim Steinman clause in her contract, and if she has, I'm all here for it. Do his entire back catalogue. I love it. So I love a silly film. One of those films where you can just take your brain out and enjoy some gratuitous violence with a dark comedic tone. And Ready or Not 2, Here I Come is exactly what you'd expect from a sequel to the original. If you enjoy the first one, there's a lot to enjoy here too. The ensemble cast works really well. Hatose's vicious Titus Danforth is really cunningly evil throughout, and he plays it with a real nastiness that easily makes him the most unlikable character in the entire film. His sister Sarah Michelle Gellar knows she needs him, but she fears him at the same time, and them having a little bit of a power struggle between the two of them, because they are two of the hunters. It's a nice little dynamic to add to the events that unfold. It's something that you know is going to come to a head at some point, and it does. So Dan Bain, Olivia Cheng, Varun Saranga, Mesa Lizdek, Nesta Carbonell, and Kevin Durand make up most of the rest of the cast, and they all serve their purpose as well. And some of them are pure cannon fodder, whilst some of them have got a deeper connection and backstory. For example, Lizdek's backstory is actually one where she was meant to have been the one to marry Alex in the first film in the first place, and it really gives her a reason to hate Grace more than anyone else. And Elijah Wood is fantastic here as well. So he plays effectively is a lawyer who kind of reads out the rules, but he's a joy in this. He's really good fun because he just don't give a shit, and I love that about Elijah. It's how he comes across sometimes. It's fantastic. So the violence is done really well. It is really brutal in places though, and it does look nasty and painful. There's a really nasty scene where one of the characters kicks hell out of one of the girls, and it truly is really, it's vile, and it does look really painful. Samara Weaving comes off on the wrong side of almost everything, from exploding outhouses, exploding people, spikes, all sorts of painful weapons. And it's mad that the events of this film are happening literally a day or two after the events of the first film. But, let's not get bogged down in how much pain and blood loss she'd have. Just let's sit back and enjoy a very entertaining sequel. Catherine Newton is a joy in this film too. She's as resilient as a sister, whilst also being constantly pissed off that she's been drawn into it all alongside this sister that she's fallen out with. And this is one of the things that I did have a slight issue with. They do play on the whole, oh, but you weren't there for me. And then I had to leave conversations kind of between them two way too much. And it does get a little bit repetitive. But at the end of the day, the story itself, it's a fairly shallow film. And, it's just a film about surviving people who want to kill you so they don't get exploded by devils. So it needed some kind of padding. And then there's the final scenes. And again, the film sticks to some convictions very well, but in a slightly different way to the original. It's really silly. But it's a lot of fun. And I, for one, would happily see another one of these films. Or maybe perhaps even that sequel that got slightly hinted at early on in the film. But I don't know if I'm the only person that's picked that up. So Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, is in cinemas from Friday the 20th of March. And that's about it. I think the only other film that I've watched that's of any real significance is one that I watched that's come to streaming called Whistle, which is a horror film. And it's quite a generic horror film. It's fairly low budget. It's very Final Destination-esque. It's a load of kids get this whistle, and if you blow it and whoever hears it, effectively, the way that you will die in the future comes to get you now, effectively. So there's some really nasty deaths in it. Now, there's some deaths in it that look a bit naff, and the special effects are naff. There's one towards the end that is one of the most brutal, vicious deaths I have ever seen in any of these kind of films. It is really nasty. It's probably nastier than a lot of the deaths in the Final Destination films, and it's well worth watching. It's a fun film. It's not a long film. It'll waste less than 2 hours of your life, and it's a fairly decent watch. So that's Whistle. So thank you all for listening. If you've enjoyed this one, you can go back and listen to previous episodes. That'll really help me out because it just looks good on my numbers. Remember, you can subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to this so you don't miss an episode. You can follow me on Facebook, search for Dave on Film, or Instagram on username Dave on Film Reviews, or check out my blog on daveonfilm.co.uk. I'll be back real soon, and remember to keep your time circuits on and your flux capacitor fluxing.